Hey, Jack Luna is the worst. I don't know, episode, whatever. Not sure what it is. But for this one, I want to tell you my story, like my real story that I've never really talked about in full anywhere else. And it's kind of important for me to tell it because I think I've given the impression that my parents let me down and, people let me down, all that kind of stuff. And in ways, that's true. But so, you're born and you kind of wake up one day and you take a look around. And you're always looking around when you're a human being right from the beginning, right? But there comes a point where you start to get friends or you start to see other people and you see how they live and whatever, and you're looking around. And when I started looking around, I guess I was like 4, and there was a lot of abuse in my house. My dad, he was like 25. My mom's 24. They're all fucked up. My mom was adopted. She had a husband before that. I think he went out on a boat to go deliver some weed to like Jamaica or something, and he never came back. She had an abortion like just before me. My dad was the sixth of 6 kids, Irish family. My grandfather came over from Ireland. He was a piece of work. My grandmother was beautiful. She just died recently, 96 years old. She actually got euthanized. Oh, man. And, shit. Um, you know, he was fucked up. My grandfather was in the army. In the army. He was in World War II. He changed his name and got in there when he was too young out of Ireland, and he ended up in Canada afterwards. And he saw a lot of action, from what I've heard. And I'll tell you one story about my grandfather. He shot up this house with some other guys there in the military. They just like, who goes there type shit, and nobody said anything. They saw movement, so they shot the place up. And when they went in, there was a bunch of kids dead, family or something. And one of the kids had red hair, and my uncle ended up having red hair. And my grandfather wanted to speak to him. He kind of treated him funny and shit. He was abusive. And my dad, like I said, he was the sixth of 6 kids, and they also adopted another girl who ended up getting taken away from them. He was like kind of like the black sheep of our already like not a black family, but like a dark family. And he loved his dad, and there were stories like his dad showing up at his baseball games all fucked up and drunk and falling over and shit. He was supposed to be coaching him, and my dad would pick him up and walk him home. And he wanted nothing but the best for his dad. He wanted his dad to be okay. He wanted the family to be okay, and it was never going to be okay. And my dad I hung in with him until he died. I think he was like probably 28. So my relationship with my father was similar to that, and that I would never give up on my dad, even though when I was a kid, he beat my mom up. I was like 4 or 5. My brother, 3, 4, and I go running out of the house. My mom would be screaming for me to go get help, and I would run. I have this memory. There's this place I can still go see it. I still go by there when I go back and visit home. And we were in this shitty house near a jail and a mental hospital and a church. And I go running at the door for help. And I remember running across, and my brother's still in there, right? And I go running into this apartment building, and I remember thinking, I'm trying to protect my dad still. I don't want everybody to know about this situation that we're in. So I go to my friend's place. His name is Anthony, and I'm 4 years old, like running upstairs and trying to find the right door, knocking on doors. And this isn't a one-time thing. I mean, this happened like at the least 6 times. Get to the door and I'd be like, my dad's beating the shit out of my mom. Can you get us help? They call the cops, and the guy, my friend's dad, was beating the shit out of his girl too, and he wouldn't want to call because he didn't want to rat on my dad. But I was always like, he's fucking killing her in there. He beat my mom up real bad, multiple times, almost killed her a couple times, and and he went to jail, and we snuck out in the night, went to a new house, and he would show up there when he got out and try to break in and making phone calls, and I would pick up the phone and hear breathing. Like, I think he was hiring people to do this. He tried to hire a guy to kill my mom. There's a lot. So, but through all that, my dad always loved us, like, so much, and every time that we would go with my grandmother would pick us up, and we weren't supposed to be able to see him, and then my dad would come out of the bushes somewhere where she would pull up, and he would come in, and we'd have a great time on the weekend, but we couldn't say we saw our dad. But beyond that, as time went on, I had a stepfather come into the picture, and stepfather, he wasn't the best. I mean, at the start he was okay, but then after a while they quit drinking, my mom and him, and he's kind of just felt like, when like a bear tries to wipe out the family and wants to have a new start type thing. It just didn't feel like he wanted us around, and my brother and I would just be kind of hiding in our own house, and it was more stable because we were poor as shit. My mom was a bus driver, and we were having to go to these camps, and I hated it, and we were poor, and below the poverty line. I mean, she was making like 19 grand a year, I think, or something. So when he came, we had a bit more money, and that was nice. And he tried, I think, but as the more they got sober, and it just felt like there was a disconnect between the two of them and their relationship because of the sobriety, and they were hanging in with each other because they had both kind of screwed up previous relationships, and my mom was in a better spot than she'd ever been, so they just hung in there together, not really loving each other the way that they should have. And my brother and I kind of got lost in the shuffle there. He'd come home and we'd go run into our rooms and stuff, and he wasn't abusive or anything. He's actually, now later on in life, I actually like the guy, but we grew up feeling like, I don't know, it just wasn't good. We just didn't feel like they wanted us there. It was like they kind of wanted to have their relationship, and we were kind of in the way. And I don't know if they really felt that way, but it felt like that for us. And then we go see our dad, and he would fill our heads with all this shit. Like they're fucking, they don't love you, and I love you, and they don't love you, and maybe I'll just take you guys away. Maybe I'll just, he would pull up after a weekend before the house, right? And he would just fill our heads with all this shit and make us very upset. And we'd be crying and everything, and he'd ask us if he wanted just to take us away. We'd say no, we want to be with our mom. And we'd get home, and I remember just going to my room and just fucking crying my eyes out. And I'm sure my brother did the same thing. And it was just fucked up. And as life went on, you get involved with friends and other people and shit like that, and you get what you need from other people, and my mom was very loving, don't get me wrong. I mean, she loved us, but it was just the dynamic there with the stepfather, and then my dad showing up, and just being very tense all the time. It was very confusing who to love, and they loved us, don't get me wrong. But anyways, that's how I started out in my life, and as I met people and saw what their life was like, I was like, what the fuck, I guess, it's different in every family. And my mom had it so bad, and my dad had it so bad too. So I can't blame them. There's a Bill Burr skit where he's like, hey, my dad used to like smack me around and like yell at me and stuff, but his dad, when he shit his diaper, would throw him outside and make him clean himself up with snow or whatever. So like it's not as bad as it was before. And that was like what it was for us. We're very like raw, emotional kids, like from what we'd seen, and then we get into a situation where it's just dead silence. So it's like chaos, and now it's dead silence, and we're in this household where it doesn't feel like a lot of love, and stable enough, but not a lot of love. Where the previous one was all love, but being expressed in this really intense, nasty, violent way, where we're being pulled between two parents. And anyways, that's my story from the young age, and as I grew up, I decided I wanted to get involved in social services because I wanted to help people in similar situations, but I realized pretty quick that I was too fucked up to help anybody. So I got with kids with disabilities who, you don't got to talk to, you just got to help. And that was my thing. And that worked out for about 10 years. And then I came out here and worked gas station jobs, addicted to drugs and alcohol and cigarettes, and dealing with weird demons that I have, I guess. And eventually it all came out in Dark Topic. And not all of it, but some of it. And I was able to use that medium or that that venue to kind of work through a lot of my stuff. I didn't feel like anybody could relate to me, and through Dark Topic, I found a lot of people who can, and it has really helped me quite a bit. And there's so much more to the story, but I just wanted to share some of it, I guess. Thank you so much for all the support. And that doesn't help anybody, what I just said, but that's my story. Some of it. Thank you.